This is the second MailPlus training session, 2 out of 3 for WorkBooks integrated customers. So in the first session, we again went over the platform, gave you a general overview of MailPlus. We looked at data in more detail. So just to recap, we've got all of your data or contacts coming through from WorkBooks. They're synced over. You can build your dynamic lists or pots of data inside of MailPlus. But you also have the ability to create those lists inside of WorkBooks and then sync those over as part of a list sync. So that's what I've done for the list sync on this page here. So I've created that in WorkBooks and then sync that across into MailPlus. In today's call, we're going to go over the integration options again, just to recap those, and then have a look at mailings and creating messages in more detail. And then in the third and final MailPlus session, I'll take you through reporting and automations. So before we get started in MailPlus, let's jump over into WorkBooks. In WorkBooks, we'll go into the WorkBooks logo and then go to marketing and then look at the Spotler integration. We'll click into the MailPlus integration. In here, we're going to look at data feed and campaign sync history. So in data feed, you can configure what gets synced back into WorkBooks. So we're going to be sending out a mailing today. So picking an email, sending out to a select number of contacts. As part of that send from MailPlus, we want to make sure that any report data that comes back into MailPlus gets synced into WorkBooks as well. So in here, I'm saying that all data we collect inside of MailPlus is going to sync back into WorkBooks. In here, I can also select the type that I want it to sync it back to. So if there is the same record more than once, you can decide which is the lead record type. So we can only sync back into one record inside a workbook. So if the contact is listed as a person and also a sales lead, let's let the person be the lead record type. So any reporting data will go back into that person record rather than the sales lead. History, you can just see here history of the syncs that have been coming from MailPlus into workbooks. Campaign sync history, so any mail shots you create inside of workbooks and sync those into MailPlus and they get sent out MailPlus will be shown here as part of the campaign sync history. So you'll see that data being shown here. Let's go back into MailPlus. We'll go into messages now. So in messages, you've got folders on the left-hand side, so very similar to the rest of the platform. So you can create folders and have messages within those folders. Up top, you've got a few tabs. The first one being overview. Any messages that you build will be in this overview tab here. You can see this one here is currently not being used. It's in draft mode. So any ones that are being built currently or also have been built and sent out from the platform previously will all still remain on this page here. Campaign messages is a legacy feature that won't need to be used. Automation messages, so any messages that are used within an automation will be moved into this automation messages tab here. So if you can't find a message in overview, it will likely be because it's been moved into this automation messages tab. Templates to look at later. That's where you can save a message as a template. It's a really good way of speeding up message creation. So when you come to making a message, you don't have to start from scratch. You can use a template that's already been built. And finally, archive, so you can look at your archive messages. So if we go back into overview, click on new message. You might have a few options here. So for me, I've got access to our old editor and a new one. You might also have access to the HTML editor, or it might just be one button to create a new message. I'm going to choose new message. Name, it's going to be ed demo message. And then the unsubscribe package, this is really important. So by default, it'll always be marketing. So if you remember back in the first session, I explained that the marketing permission is basically a contact being opted in. So what this is doing here is saying when the email gets sent out, make sure they have the marketing permission. And also when they go and unsubscribe, which permission should be removed from that contact if they were to unsubscribe. So yeah, that's marketing for both here. If you want to override that, you can do so there by saying no unsubscribe package. That means two things. One, we won't check for any opt-in status when sending out the email. It will just go to everyone that you select. And secondly, it means you can't include an unsubscriber link. So you need to make sure you remove that from the message. I'll stick with marketing though. Save and next. I've then got my inbox fields here. So there's a few ones you might want to tweak. So sender name there, that was set in the settings as a default value. I can always change it there. Subject lines. So this week's news, for example, I can pop in some personalization fields as well. So I could choose maybe their first name, for example, and then a fallback of customer, reader, whatever it needs to be. That'll then be shown as a fallback value. You can also include emojis there if you've got that button there. You've got the option to include an A/B split test there. So that'll then open up the second option there. So version B could be typed in there. You can then decide how you'd like that split to work when you actually go and send out the mailing. So should it be a 10%, 10%, 80% kind of split? You can sort of tweak that there. And also in terms of the results, you can decide how those or how the winner gets selected. So you can do it automated, where the system will take care of it. So whichever email has the most number of clicks will be deemed the winner. Or you can do it manually where you log in a day later or whatever, and you select the winner, and that then gets pushed out to the other 80% of contacts, for example. Snippet is the preview that the recipient will see in their inbox. So when they receive an email from you, they'll see the sender name, subject line, and a preview of the email. It's that preview that we're setting here. The reply address can be set there, so I can choose one of the two ones that are set up in this account. Save and next, I can then edit the message here. This will then bring up the message editor. So there are general templates that can be selected. So you're more than welcome to use one of our default ones there. I won't use that for the time being. I'm going to start from scratch, but yeah, feel free to use those if you wanted to. Any saved templates that you previously saved will be in the Save tab there. So I'll show you later on how you can save that template. But yeah, I'm going to start with a blank page. This then loads up the image editor, sorry, the message editor. So in the message editor, you've got this message you're building in the middle of the screen there, options at the top there, and then the actual options to build the message on the left-hand side. So if you go through the options on the left-hand side, you've got elements, content, structure, and general. So elements are the images, text, buttons that you can drag into the email. Content are saved blocks that you've saved. So you've got our default ones here. You can also go to save blocks. That'll show you your save blocks. Structure show you your rows and sections. So you can use that to start building out the framework of the email. And then general allows you to update general options like default font size, that sort of stuff there. So if I go into the structure, I want to start building that sort of framework for the email. So I've got this first section here. So rows always sit within sections. So I can drag in another section if I wanted to. That then put in two there. And then maybe a final one there. So I've got my section for the header, one for the body, and then one for the footer there. So within that header, I want to drag in another row there. So the top sort of section there has got two different rows in it. And then for the body, I'm going to drag in maybe two columns there as a row. Let's just drag that down below. There we go. And then finally for the footer, I'm going to drag in another single column row. So I've got the main sort of structure for my email there. Before I start modifying it further, I want to go into general and then just tweak the branding there. So you've got a few options at the top here. So first is desktop, next is mobile, and then third is AI. So when you're building the message, you can actually build it mobile first. So I can go to this mobile tab. I can continue building the message in this mobile view. So if the majority of your recipients open up their email on their phone, it might make sense to build it mobile first. Otherwise, you can sort of toggle up top here between desktop and mobile, or when you flip between different settings, it'll then change automatically for you as well. On desktop, I can set my brand guidelines. So it's sometimes useful to have brand guidelines where you can basically apply them at a click of a button, and then any sort of links you include, any social media icons you drag in, they'll all sort of defaulted to your correct brand. So yeah, a useful feature to use. Otherwise, you can just do it once as part of a sort of template build. You can set your default font options and your social media icons, save that as a template, and then when you come to actually then use that template, those will already be set for you. So yeah, a few ways to do that. I've applied that branding. I'm happy with all these options down here. The only one I might want to change is the page title. That'll be the tab name if this is opened up in their browser. So you can see currently my tab is Spotler MailPlus. I might want to change this to be this week's news, for example. So if they were to open up this email in their browser, they would then see that as a tab name. Going over to mobile, there are a few options I can tweak for mobile. So I can have different branding for mobile. I can also change the content padding for mobile. So I could bring sort of, the content in slightly by adding in 10 pixels. If I go back into desktop, I don't have that padding there. So it allows you to sort of have different padding for desktop versus mobile. So yeah, quite a good feature there. Let's remove that for the time being. AI. So what you can do is whenever you're sort of building an email, you can select a block and you can sort of ask AI for a bit of help. So we have an integration with ChatGPT where you can sort of ask for help with creating some button copy, whatever it might be. It can then generate that content for you. We go back into desktop and then go back into my content now. I can start to drag in blocks that I've already saved. So yeah, if you have sort of built in emails previously, you can save the header, you can save the footer, you can save the body, and you can then very simply drag those in. But for this email, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to start dragging in the elements myself. So for this top section, as the header, I want to have a view online link. I want to have the logo and a navigation bar as well. So I can start off by adding in the view online link. So going into text here, dragging that in. As I want to have a logo and a navigation bar, I need to add in one more row there. Go back into content, sorry, go back into elements. And then here I can then pull through my image. That'll then be the logo. And then below that, I'm going to drag in a navigation bar as well. So I've then got my sort of header planned out there. It's got the content of the view online link at the top, the image for the logo there, and then my navigation bar below that. Next, I'll move on to the main content of the email. I'm going to change this ever so slightly, so I have the single column at the top there, and then below that I've got my 2-column option. So for here, going back, I'm going to drag in my content there. So for this first one here, I'm going to pull through maybe some text. And then below that, text on the left-hand side, and then image on the right. And then below that text, maybe a button there as well. Below that, I've then got my final section, which is the footer. So in there, I'm going to pull through my text right at the bottom to act as the unsubscribe link. And then above that, it's going to be the social media icons. Perfect. That's the sort of, the main content added in to the email there. I can now start to actually add in the images, the actual text I wanted to use. So if I click and start at the top there, it's going to be the view online link I want to modify. When you click into it, you'll see the options on the left-hand side do change. Again, you get a few options at the top here. So again, desktop, mobile, for those different settings for desktop, mobile. Then overall settings, you can tweak whether you want this block to be shown or hidden on desktop or mobile. So going to desktop, I can start typing out my text here. Highlight it, click on this link icon here at the top. This then brings up the link editor. So in here, I've got a few tabs again. So I've got general, web analytics, and update profile. So for general, this allows me to set the link that I would like to include or have behind this text. Web analytics, I can basically say, do I want to update this and sort of pull through the default values, so different UTM values there. I can specify a specific campaign word for this link as well. Update profile is a really useful tool. So in here, I can say actually, when someone clicks on this link, I want to change their interests or the company they work at, whatever it might be. If you've got that saved as a custom field, you can then update that record as soon as they click on that link. Going back to general, I've then got the link type. So click on this drop down here, there are a few you can select here. First is link to a MailPlus web page. So as I mentioned in the first session, you can build web pages within MailPlus. Once you've created that, just sort of select your MailPlus web page there. Link to an anchor. So when you're building a web page, use the same editor as we're looking at here. So for website, you can use anchor links. For email, it's not as widely used. I'll probably skip over that, but it allows you to link to a specific part of the email or page. Link to an email address, so you can pop in the email address into there, subject and body. That'll then, when clicked, open up the client's or the recipient's email client, pre-filled of your email address and subject and content. You've got linked to a document there. So you can upload a document on the main page inside of MailPlus, the one of the tabs on the left side. Once you've done that, you can then select that document there. That'll then sit behind this link. Link without tracking. So for whatever reason, if you don't want to track this link, you can do so there. So you can say, actually, I want to include a link, but I don't want it to be tracked for whatever reason. So select that option there. We then won't track that link as part of the reporting for the email. Link to a phone number. So pop in the number there, that'll open up their phone app. And then below that, you've got external link with tracking. So this is the main link we typically end up using or see clients use. So in here, you can pop in your link to a certain page on the website. You can pop in a link name, so give it a descriptive name. You can then identify it very clearly inside the reporting where that click's come from, where it's going. So, for example, homepage header link, for example. So you know that the link to the homepage has come from the header link within the email. URL down below. You can also personalize it as well. So if you want to store some of the path within the contacts custom field, you can do so there as well. So it may be useful if you have a page on the website and they have to include their account number to be able to see their account as part of the URL. You could pass through their account number so they get logged in automatically, that sort of thing. Finally, you've got the conversion link, yes or a no. So when you mark this as a conversion link, they'll be then shown in their own separate click report. So the way I like to look at conversion links is they are sort of, the flagship links. So the real main reason you're sending out this email is to get them to click on these links. So yeah, a couple of links within the email, mark those conversion links. They'll then sit in their own report inside of MailPlus. So you can very clearly see how well those links performed. You still get the overall link report, which include all links. It's just a secondary report they'll also be included in. And that data isn't synced back into WorkBooks. It's a MailPlus only feature. But for this example, I wanted to pull through a special link, and it's going to be a link to the online version there. So when clicked, that'll then bring up the online version of that email. As you can see in here, I've got a few options at the top here. I can change the font and the text I've added in, and then some options on the left-hand side. As you can see, there are sort of overlaps there, so I can change text color at the top there and also text color there. It doesn't matter which one you use, but yeah, there are slightly different options depending on which left or top you're using to modify the text. You can add in your padding as well. So if this is the online link, I don't want as much padding there, or maybe I do actually on desktop, whereas on mobile, let's make it 5 because there's obviously less screen real estate to work with. So again, that's a great reason where you can sort of come in and sort of tweak the mobile padding so it's different on desktop. Settings, like before, I can sort of display or hide it on mobile. And also, as I said before, you can use AI to help you word that as well. Cool. Going below that, I've then got this image here. Clicking into that, I can then select my image. So again, depending on what you're selecting, the options on the left-hand side will change. So I can select my image there. You can then choose an existing image that you already uploaded previously, upload a new one here, using external image, or use a stock library. So you can search based on keyword, color, or orientation. But I'm going to stick with my images. I'm going to go for the Spotler logo there. That's obviously quite big. I want to come in and sort of change the padding potentially and for that. So you can sort of tweak how that looks within the message, but normally the sort of image will try and fill the space if it is big enough. If it's quite a small image you're uploading, it won't automatically sort of increase scale, increase in size. It's only if the actual image you've uploaded is wide enough to fill the space, it will then fill that. Otherwise, it will sort of stay as a smaller image if it's quite a small image size you've uploaded. For this image, I can modify it, so I can personalize it. That allows me to add in text of the image. I can modify the image using a second editor. That's where I can come in, I can crop it, I can resize it. So that's quite a useful tool. Below that, I can add the alt text, so description of the image. I can also add a tooltip. So when you go and hover over the image and when you're viewing it in the browser, what should it say? I've then got the option to add in a URL there as well. So again, this brings up the sort of default link editor there. So external link with tracking, link name is going to be Spotler homepage. It's going to be from the logo. It's really important to make sure these are unique because when you come to reporting, if you enabled all these links to Spotler homepage, if you had 5 of them, you wouldn't actually know which one was most popular. You'd have to go into the individual sort of email and sort of look at the heat map to work that out. It's it's much easier if you can just sort of give it a unique name. So I know this comes from the logo. If this was the #1 link, I know it's homepage clicks from the logo. And then the address there. Conversion link, yes or no. Again, marking as a conversion link allows me to sort of see that in a separate report. Image style is the option, so auto width. So if it was a smaller image, you can sort of to sort of choose how that works within the platform. Alignment, again, if it was a smaller image, I could sort of align it left, right, center. Obviously, this is taking up the full space. I can add in some corner radius, border, and then padding as well. So I can add in 50 pixels either side. That'll then sort of decrease the image size and sort of add in that additional space, top left, right, and center, and bottom. I'll leave that as just 5 for the time being. And then for advanced, you can add in your own custom CSS or HTML classes. So CSS, if you want to do, you're more than welcome to add that in. HTML is the language you use to write the emails within the editor. So you can add in your own class there if you wanted to. Whilst we're on this image here, you can see once I've clicked on it, I've got this breadcrumb trail at the top here. So I can switch the row. Quick switching to the row gives me a few more options. So the row obviously is housing that image block. And then finally, the last sort of the option there is going to be the sections. That's the overall section. So yeah, if you're sort of struggling to add in padding where you needed to add in or sort of change the background color, whatever it might be, you might need to go into the row instead. And then in here, you can increase the number of columns, you can tweak the column width, stuff like that. You can then change the style of this. So again, I can sort of set that background color there if I wanted to and sort of tweak that for this image. And then again, for that sort of row style, again, I can sort of make those changes. So if you have got more than one column within one row, you can sort of tweak how those individual columns look versus the whole overall row as well. And again, I can add in some padding. So that allows me to add in some padding at the row level rather than the block level. Again, same for mobile and then settings. I can also introduce some conditions here. So I can say actually for this logo, I only want it to be shown to contacts that are in this particular audience, for example. So for our last session, I got my Ed demo there. Only contacts in that Ed demo list will be shown this logo here. If they're not in that list, they will not be shown that logo. So if you've got very sort of distinctive groups of contacts and you sync them across into MailPlus, you can sort of split out have a larger email with different logos, and then each sort of group receives their own version of that logo. So yeah, a really useful tool if you've got very distinctive groups. The only thing to be aware of is that if you are sort of going down that path, having different versions of an image or a piece of text, whatever it might be, just make sure that there's no chance that a contact could be in that sort of more than one of those groups that you're using. So if they were in both groups and you had sort of two different conditions being used, they would see both logos within their email. They wouldn't just see one. So yeah, just make sure they are very clean cut with those. Below that, you've got block editing. I can sort of lock this block down, so I don't want anyone to modify this image. I can lock it down. And then I can also hide on desktop mobile like before. And then finally, I've got this A/B split test here. So again, if I'm sort of go down the route of using A/B split testing, I can say actually I want this logo to be version A and the other one to be version B. And then again, sort of when I get to that sort of sending of the email, I can then sort of decide, what does version A and version B look like. So yeah, really good sort of tool to use there as well. If we go back, as you can see, sort of stayed in mobile view. I can split back into desktop view there. Moving down, I've got the navigation option. So in here, again, you've still got the certain breadcrumb trail where I can go into columns, I can, sorry, my rows, add in more columns I wanted to, but I'm going to stick with the actual content itself. I've got my 3 navigation items there. So item 1 is going to be the homepage, maybe. 2 can be about us, and then 3 can maybe be contact us, for example. I want to go in there and now modify each one of those links. So again, it's going to be the same as before. So it's going to be Spotlight homepage, navbar, for example. And again, it's going to pop in spotler.com as the link there. So yeah, just go ahead and make all those changes. You can add more items. You can delete them there if you wanted to as well. Navigation styles, again, you can sort of tweak the look and feel of how the navigation bar looks there. Same with the sort of color and the alignment there. Below that, I can click into my text. Again, same as before as the online link. Click into it, you can then start typing. I can pass through a person's first name by clicking the P icon there. Choose my field. Alternative value is going to be reader, for example. And then let's put on the left hand side. So I can pass through hello, and that's going to be the first name, and then put on there. I can then start popping in the content there. It's passed through the database name, which is that Dutch name. If I click into it, you can see it's very clearly it's the first name that I have selected, and you can verify that there. And then within the content of the message, again, just highlight any bit of text you want to, click on the link icon, and then you can sort of convert that into a link. Below that, we've got the button. So again, clicking into the button, I can change the options for that button on the left-hand side. So click on that. I've then got link name is going to be Spotler homepage button this time. URL there. Okay, that then becomes a link to the homepage again. And then to modify the actual text itself, just click into it. For the styling, I'm not going to I can change the blue button, that's better. So I can sort of press that there. On the right hand side, I've got that image. So again, click into it. Options on the left hand side do change. I can select an image there, choose that image, okay. That then becomes an image. Obviously, if I wanted to, I could start experimenting with forcing different heights, adding in padding, that sort of stuff. What I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to go into this row option. I'm going to change column 2 to actually be only 100 pixels wide. That then force that image to be much smaller. Obviously, it will then readjust these elements here. For this button, I can always align that left to match the rest of the text. So obviously, it's quite a poor email that I'm building here, but you get the idea where you can sort of introduce those different options and then sort of tweak those different column widths as well. In the elements, there are more that you can select here. So I've only used a couple. The other ones to take note of would be the divider maybe. So I can add in a divider there. That then creates a bit of divide there. Likewise, a spacer. If I was to add in a spacer, I can click into the spacer and I can change the height of that spacer to either increase it or decrease it. I've also then got the option to add in a video block. So you can paste in a YouTube or Vimeo URL. That'll then bring up the thumbnail for that. They're clicking on that block. That then takes them to that particular video on YouTube or Vimeo. Timer is a really useful tool. So I can click into that, click on add timer. I can then add in that countdown timer. So I can choose a date and time to count down to, tweak the style. Once the countdown is finished, what do I want to be shown? So I can set that expiration text to be shown there as well. The way that this works is that whenever they open up the email, we'll regenerate that countdown timer and sort of display it as a GIF. So they'll always have an accurate date or time it's counting down to. And as I said, once that's finished, they can then see the expiration image instead that you set there. Cool, just wait for that to save. It takes a little bit of time just because it's generating that GIF. Perfect, so that's that countdown timer that will be shown in a second. Cool, below that, finally, we've got the social media icons there. So again, you can set this at a brand guideline level, or you can just set it for this email here and then save it as a template. So here, I'll make sure I need to update those Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat URLs. Maybe just remove the ones I don't think are relevant. So I can remove Snapchat there. Maybe add in YouTube instead. And again, link icon there. I can update the YouTube URL to be our YouTube channel. You can change the style of the social media icons as well. So I can go into black circle, I'll then tweak the style within the email. And again, you've got the same sort of options down below. So again, depending on what you're selecting, you get different style options to modify there as well. And again, same as before, change the icon style and spacing specifically for mobile as well. Finally, on here, I'm going to this final text box. This is going to become my unsubscribe link. I can then highlight that bit of text. Click on the link icon at the top there. I'm then going to set the link type to be special link. And then just choose the top option here. It's going to be the link to the unsubscribe page. Okay, that then becomes that opt-out link. So I've got my message. I'm happy with that. There are a few more options on the left-hand side here. So RSS, so if you've got an RSS feed you want to pull through content automatically, you can include that there. Products there as well. So if you're integrated with our Activate platform, you can pass through products into the email. Form feedback. So if you are creating a message and you want to be sent out after a form's been filled in, you can drag in this form feedback block. And then when sort of contacts fill out that form, the details will be passed through into that block. And then finally, you've got the custom block there, so you can pass through custom HTML. Up the top here, you've got the save button. So it doesn't save automatically, or at least it doesn't do it very often. So it's worth saving every now and then. I've got the preview button there, so I can preview this in desktop, mobile, and tablet. If I was using any conditional content, I can sort of see how it would look for those contacts that aren't in that group or are in that group. So for that logo, I did sort of have the option to be only shown if they're in this particular group there, so they're going to see it. Otherwise, they won't see it, for example. And again, A/B split test, if I was doing any split testing, I can see what version A and version B look like. Undo and redo there. I can look at the previous versions. When you make a save, you can go back to that previous save. Web analytics, so I can set the default values here for medium, source, and name. And then you can see here, whenever I include a URL, that's then going to be passed through onto the actual message itself. I've then got the SPML center. So in here, I basically get access to this full SPML. So again, it's the language you use to write these emails. So you can always sort of modify them if you wanted to. You can see a preview of the message on the right hand side, and you click on code preview there. That gives you the HTML copy of the code as well. Template, so I can always change templates. So I've just opened up an email. I can also save this as a template. So in here, I can create a new template, give it a name of Ed Demo, for example. I can add it to a category, otherwise click on OK. I've then got the brand manager. So that's the same settings we looked at in session 1. So you can sort of tweak those default values. And I can run through the test center as well. So if I need to save the message again, I can click on test center. It'll then sort of bring up a few tests here to make sure that all of the links are correct. So you can see it's flagged the ones that I need to update. And then image checker, if there are any images that are too big, it will flag those there as well. Cool. So I can then save that email. I'm now done with that. I can then close that down, save and finish. That then sort of show me that message I built there. The status will be in draft, and you can see the change date and the author there as well. So I can now basically set this message live and sort of change that status. Drop down there on the right hand side. I've got a few options. I can edit it. I can open the editor itself. I can send a test email. Clicking into that. First, it opens up this test group here. So back into lists and then contacts. You can modify your own contact and mark yourself as a member of the test group. That's what I've done for this record here. I can also create or add in an individual email address for this particular send. So I can pop in the email address there, add in first name, and that will then be used as part of the test send. Test center. This allows me to basically open up that same page as before. Change status is really important. So any messages currently in this draft state will not be able to be used as part of the mailing. They have to be in the final stage. So if I go into test status here, I can then make it test or final. So you can see it's not letting me do that because I need to modify the DMARC records. So I'm going to edit, go into delivery. I can then just change the reply address there to be the correct one. Then finish. That'll then let me set the final status there. Go to final. Okay, so now that message is final. So as you can see there, it did actually check to make sure the domain was okay. It runs a couple of other checks in there as well. So it has flagged that I couldn't actually use that sending domain and forward address because it wasn't fully set up as a demo account. So I've now rectified that. It allows me to change that status into final. You've also got this test one in between. There is no difference between draft and test. It's just purely if you wanted to internally, have tests as, to signify you're working on it currently, but it's being reviewed by a colleague or whatever it might be. Otherwise, you can jump from draft to final straight away. You can view it. You can rename the message as well. And then you can duplicate it. You can move between folders, archive it, and delete it as well. Send. So next step is to go into mailings. You can then create your new mailing. So creating a mailing is basically the act of sending out the email from the platform. Before we do that, we need to get our list data and also create our MailShot inside of WorkBooks. So when you create a MailShot inside of WorkBooks, it will automatically sort of sync over the list. And then what we can do is when we're sending out the mailing, we can sort of select the MailShot we want to sort of tile the reporting data back into as well. So now I'll go into WorkBooks, WorkBooks logo, marketing, and then MailShots. I can then create that MailShot. So in here, I can create a new MailShot. I can then basically select a number of contacts to include as part of that MailShot. But what I'll do before that, we'll just recap how you can create a new mailing list. So go into here. Go into reports. I'm going to create a new report here. Create a blank report. choose a people report. So here I'm going to build my contacts that I want to send to. So you're more than welcome to select a sort of mailing list and then MailShot from that mailing list that you've already created, or you can create a new one. So this report name is going to be demo, just myself in this one here. So I can then save that. I can then pull up the columns, add my columns in. The same as before, column is going to be email address. And then person reference. I can then go into my criteria. I can add in my criteria. So the column of email operator is going to be is, and then my address there. Save and close. I can then run that. I can then open it up again. Oh, let me open that. There we go. It's a bit slow. And I can see actually it's got my person reference there. So there's one email address there. Cool. So I've got my report there. I can then attach that to a mailing list. Let's go into mailing list. Let's go into marketing, go into mailing lists, create a new mailing list. I'm going to create a dynamic mailing list, give it a name. So as demo. The report I want to use here is going to be my only one column. It's going to be person reference, add members. There's one member there, myself there. Perfect. Save and close. I've then got my mailing list to use basically for send. Again, sometimes it will show 0 members, but if you click into it, you will actually see there is one member in there. Cool. So I've got my person report. I've linked it to my mailing list. I'm now ready to use that mailing list as part of a MailShot. So again, go into WorkBooks logo, top left-hand corner. WorkBooks logo, top left-hand corner. Go into marketing. Go into MailShots. And on here, I can then create a new MailShot. In this view section down below, I have got my views. So I've got Spotler Mailshot there as well. So any previously sent out mail shots or sort of, mailings from MailPlus, you'll see that reporting data come back into WorkBooks in this page here. So feel free to use that to look at previously sent out mailings from MailPlus. I'm going to click on new MailShot though. The type of MailShot is going to be a new Spotler MailShot. Mailing list is going to be that Ed only one. Okay, not sure why it didn't pull up immediately, but there we go. Ed only. Next. Next. The name is going to be Ed Demo Mailing. Save and close. That's now created that MailShot. It's not ready to be used there inside of MailPlus. Before I sort of use it in MailPlus, I just make sure I open it up and then click on that synchronize button. When I do that, it's then going to sync that list into MailPlus, and then I can then use that inside of MailPlus. So what I'll do now is I'll head into MailPlus and I'll then see that list inside of MailPlus. I can then use that as part of my mailing inside of MailPlus. So now if I go to MailPlus, we've then got that list that's been synced over. It takes about 5 minutes for that to happen. So just skipped over until it's finished syncing, but it will take you about 5 minutes for that list to be synced over. So I'm in the list tab here on the left-hand side. I've then got dynamic list at the top there. I've then got that CRM campaign that's been synced over. So that's that MailShot from WorkBooks. You can see there, it's got the name of Ed Demo Mailing. That's the one I just created. You can see there's one contact. It's got the database icon to indicate it's come from a third-party platform like WorkBooks. I can always click into that. I can view those contacts. So that's that one contact in there. So obviously in our last call, we went over creating a manual sync. That isn't needed as part of the MailShot sync. So it just does that for you automatically. So most of our customers will create a MailShot. They'll attach their mail list instead of WorkBooks. That'll then take care of that list sync for them. So yeah, it's got me that one contact as a list inside of MailPlus. I can now go into mailings. I can then create that mailing. So in mailings, there's a few tabs at the top here. So you've got overview, trend reports, automailers, and archives. The overview is all of the messages that you have sent out as mailings, and then also are to be sent out as well as any ones that are scheduled. You'll see here as well. Trend reports are a great way to combine different types of sends together. So, for example, if you've got a send like a weekly versus monthly, you can have the weekly trend report and the monthly trend report. All of those different reports will then be passed into one of those two trend reports. You can then very easily sort of compare the weekly send and just see how well they're going, and have those monthly sends sort of separate from that report. Automailers is a legacy feature that isn't used anymore. We've got the automations that are the new way to create those. And then archive, yeah, if you have archived any mailings, they'll be shown there. So what I'll do is create a new mailing here. Give it a mailing name. So this doesn't really matter. This is going to be shown inside of MailPlus and not be pushed back into WorkBooks. You've already got that mail shot that you created in WorkBooks. This is purely just for MailPlus. So aid mailing example is fine. Type email RSS. I've then got the message that I want to use here. So this is where I can select that domain message. So as I said, only messages that you've marked as final as the status will be included here. I can then preview that message if I wanted to make sure everything's okay there. I can click on next. I've then got my target group here. So I've got dynamic list, or I can select a non-open list as well. But normally it's going to be dynamic list that you basically pushed over from WorkBooks. So I've got access to all these lists that are in our account. I can choose more than one, but I'm only going to be interested in this sort of first one here, the ed domain mailing. You can see the date and timestamp that was synced over as well. Next, I've got settings. So I've got trend reports. As I said, you can build your different trend reports. Again, if you have very distinctive types of emails, and you can combine those into different trend reports. The most important part of this page here is the bottom here is the CRM campaign option. So at the moment, if I don't select a CRM campaign, what will happen is the message will send out from MailPlus, but it'll be synced back into WorkBooks as a generic Spotler mailing as a mail shot. So we'll create a default mail shot for you. All of your emails that sent from MailPlus where you haven't specified the CRM campaign will be pushed into that default one there. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. We want it to go back into that mail shot that I've created. So in here, drop down, add them a mail shot. That's going to be, mailing. That's going to be the one I want to link to. That's the mail shot that I created inside of WorkBooks. So by selecting that, all that reporting data for the opens and clicks get pushed back into that mail shot that I created inside of WorkBooks. So yeah, definitely worth doing. For next, I can then choose my schedule. So if I want to be going out straight away or if it should be sent out later, I can choose it to be done in batches as well. So you can sort of have it sort of spaced out over 10 hours. Each batch is 1,000. If you've got a list size of 10,000, you can do that if you want to do as well. Next, I've then got my sort of preview page here. So I can just preview, make sure that everything's okay with that message. And also my sort of settings are all good. Once I'm happy, click on confirm there. Save and finish. That's then going to sort of push that email out of the platform. So there's only one record in that, just myself. It's actually fairly quick to go through and then sort of see the results pretty instantly on that. Once I've received that email, I'll open it up. I'll click on a couple of links. That then give me some reporting data to sort of run through on the next session and also show you how that looks inside of WorkBooks as well. So that was it for today's call. We've just got that message that's been sent out. I can refresh it. The status will likely change from processing to sent as well. So I've now got the message been sent out. As I said, I will then engage in that message. We'll then have some reporting data to look at in the next call there as well. Cool, that's all for today. As I said, next call is going to be going through the reporting and automations.